Welcome back. Today's explainer is diving straight into some seriously eye-opening material from Capital Mind. We're going to unpack a brutal financial reality that affects millions of people, the hidden astronomical costs of living paycheck to paycheck. It's a fascinating read, and we're going to break down exactly how this cycle quietly drains wealth and, more importantly, how to systematically escape it. So let's jump right into what the source reveals about this trap.
Okay, be honest with yourself for a second. Are you paying the invisible penalty? Do you ever get to the end of the month, having worked incredibly hard, earning what society broadly calls a comfortable corporate salary, and yet you feel completely broke? You're definitely not alone in feeling that way. High-earning professionals constantly find themselves stuck in this exact paradox. The reality, the source points out, is that your salary keeps you comfortable, sure, but it is not inherently making you wealthy.
So what exactly is happening to that comfortable salary? Let's look at the immediate damage. The source highlights the visible penalties of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle first. It's a harsh truth that the mere state of being broke actively costs you money. We are talking about late fees quietly draining your accounts, high interest rates trapping you in a never-ending debt loop, and overdraft charges just continuously piling up. These are daily, visceral micro-losses. It's basically a constant tax on your existing money that keeps you struggling just to survive the month.
But here is where we really need a massive perspective shift. Notice the contrast. On the left side, we have those painful, visible costs we just talked about. You see them on your bank statement, and yeah, they sting. But on the right side is the true destroyer of your financial future, and it is entirely invisible. It's the massive opportunity cost of lost time. Delaying your investments by even a few short years just because your cash is tied up in survival mode is costing you, quite literally, millions in future compounded wealth. And this brings us to a really foundational concept. Straight from the Capital Mind text, every spending decision is a trade. Just let that sink in for a minute. When you swipe your card, you aren't just trading physical cash for an item. You are actively trading away your future financial freedom. It's an exchange of tomorrow's wealth and tomorrow's options for today's temporary comfort. Let's put this into practice to see how this psychology actually works against us in everyday life. Think about your last $50 impulse purchase. Come on, we've all done it. Maybe it was some midnight gadget on Amazon you swore would change your life, or a premium subscription you rarely even use. At that exact moment you bought it, it probably felt absolutely necessary, right? But just a few days later, that emotional high faded completely. The text highlights that most consumer spending is highly emotional, and those fleeting emotions make your money disappear in small, repeated mistakes.
So what is the actual mathematical cost of that quick impulse buy once the emotion fades? $5,000. No, seriously. Opportunity cost is a concept heavily ignored by average earners, but it is the secret language of the wealthy. Invested over several decades, that simple $50 could have compounded into thousands. That is the real terrifying cost of the purchase. You didn't just lose $50, you lost the $5,000 it was supposed to become. The crucial point here is understanding the mechanism behind that staggering growth: compound interest. The source defines this as a force where your invested capital earns steady returns. And then, here's the kicker. Those returns earn more returns on top of that, creating exponential, vertical growth. But it requires one key ingredient: uninterrupted time. Time is the ultimate wealth-building cheat code. Compound interest isn't just math. It's a force that heavily rewards patience and brutally punishes any delay.
And this comparison brilliantly illustrates exactly how that punishment plays out in reality. We have an early saver starting at age 25. They start deceptively small, but given decades of time, their wealth just explodes vertically. Then we have a late saver starting at age 35. They realize they're behind, so they start depositing massive amounts of money to catch up. But look at what happens by the time they both hit age 65. There's an exponential, completely unbridgeable gap in their final wealth. The data is undeniable. The early saver's final wealth absolutely dwarfs the late saver's final wealth, even though the late saver contributed way more actual cash out of pocket over the years. Starting early always beats starting big. This cements a hard truth from the source material. Your active salary has a hard limit because you are trading finite hours for dollars. But time itself? Time offers infinite leverage for your assets. This brings us to what Capital Mind calls the snowball effect of small money. And honestly, it's incredibly encouraging once you grasp it. You do not need to be rich to start. You just need to start rolling your snowball today. Tiny, consistent financial wins compound rapidly. They start incredibly small, they gain mass, and before you know it, those tiny habits accelerate into an unstoppable avalanche of millions. Consistency always beats raw intensity. Okay, the math is clear and the stakes are undeniably high. But how do we actually execute this? How do we stop the bleeding?
It's time to build an actionable escape plan to break this broke cycle forever. Average thinkers tend to rely on fleeting bursts of motivation, but the source outlines how to build concrete, strategic steps to dismantle these financial traps once and for all. Capital Mind maps out an exact sequence to quit that default lifestyle. Step 1 is securing a $1,000 emergency buffer. The strategy here isn't to target $10,000 right away. Just secure that first $1,000 quickly. Unplanned expenses don't ask for permission, right? And this buffer protects you from falling back on high-interest bad debt. Step 2 is plugging your hidden financial leaks, canceling those unused subscriptions and negotiating regular bills. And Step 3 is automating your money systems.
Now, while you are plugging those leaks, there is a totally fascinating psychological trick mentioned in the text, the 48-hour rule for non-essential purchases. If you want something, wait exactly 48 hours. Maybe you were absolutely convinced you needed a commercial-grade waffle maker at 11 p.m., but after 48 hours, that urgent necessity usually just completely evaporates. It gives your logical brain time to catch up, forcing the expensive emotional high to fade so your logic can step in and protect your money.
Once you've plugged the leaks and paused the impulse buys, you've got to build the automated wealth machine. Why automation? Because relying on budgeting willpower is a massive trap. Human willpower inevitably fails, and rigid rules are just too mentally exhausting. But automated systems, they run flawlessly forever without human error. You set up automatic savings, investments, and bill payments the exact day your paycheck hits. Whatever is left over is for entirely guilt-free spending, while your money grows silently in the background. And that really perfectly summarizes the core philosophy we've been unpacking today. Never ask if you can afford it. Ask what this costs tomorrow. Average earners tend to focus on short-term comfort and instant gratification. They buy status items early and, unfortunately, stay broke. But the wealthy think like owners. They exercise long-term patience, delay their gratification, and buy solid assets first to build ultimate, lasting freedom. So, I want to leave a provocative question ringing in your mind. What is your next spending decision really costing your future self? The invisible penalty is quietly draining millions from average earners, but it is completely avoidable once you see the math and truly understand the sheer power of opportunity cost. Master your systems, let compounding do the heavy lifting, and fundamentally change how you view your next paycheck. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.